One more. Chapter 20. Magga, Vagga. Magga is the path. 273. Of all paths, the Eightfold Path is the best. Of all truths, the Four Noble Truths are the best. Of all states, passionlessness is the best. Of all humans, the Seeing One, the Buddha, is the best. 274. This is the only way. There is none other for the purification of insight. Tread this path and you will bewilder Mara. 275. Walking upon this path, you will make an end of suffering. Having discovered how to pull out the thorn of lust, I expound the path. 276. You yourselves must strive. The Tathagatas only point the way. Those meditative ones who tread the path are released from the bonds of Mara. So this is talking about the Noble Eightfold Path. It's the best of all paths. And of all states, passionlessness is the best. Free of passion. Passions refers to lust as well as anger. This last part is quite important. You yourselves must strive. The Tathagatas only point the way. So the Buddha only teaches us the path. It is up to us to strive. Nobody can help us except ourselves. And the Dhamma. That's why there's one important saying of the Buddha. Be a lamb unto yourselves. Be a refuge unto yourselves with no other refuge. Take the Dhamma as your lamb. Take the Dhamma as your refuge with no other refuge. So nobody can help us except ourselves. And nothing can help us except the Dhamma. So we must learn the original Dhamma of the Buddha found in the Nikayas and put effort. Always remember life is short. 277. All volitions are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. This is the path to purification. 278. All volitions are unsatisfactory or suffering. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. This is the path to purification. 279. All states are not self. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. This is the path to purification. Sabbe sankhara anicchati. This one, as I mentioned just now, all volitions are impermanent. And volitions is the condition, sankhara is the condition for the world to arise. So because sankhara is impermanent, the world, everything in the world is even more impermanent. And all volitions are suffering because the result of volitions, the world is suffering itself. Everything in the world is a cause of suffering. If we cling to it, it gives us happiness only for a short while. And later that happiness turns to suffering. And this world is always a world of, always two-sided. Because if you have happiness, you must have suffering. If you have white, you must have black. If you have short, you must have tall. And all states, these all states, this last part, Sabbe Dhamma Anattati. Sometimes people like to translate Dhamma as mental states. But this Dhamma, in my opinion, is not only mental states, but also physical states. This Dhamma refers to that Nama Rupa. Nama Rupa, everything in this world, all these states in the world, Nama Rupa, as the physical part and the mental part, are not self. In other words, there's nothing in the world that is Atta. Atta means something, this self means something that is permanent, that will never change, that has a core. But everything in the world, there is no core. Everything is changing. Everything is in a state of flux. We think this body is so real. We think there is a self in this body. But when we examine the body is made up of cells. And all the cells are like foam. The Buddha says, this body is just like foam. When you see a lump of foam, consists of bubbles, and these bubbles arise and burst, arise and burst. Just like when you wash your clothes, you put a lot of fab, and you start to shake your clothes, you see a lot of foam form. And you can see this foam, there's no core in that foam. There's no essence, there's no something solid that is unchanging. All the bubbles, they last only a short while and then they burst. So in the same way, our whole body, even though it looks so solid, so real, consists of cells. And all these cells in our body, is just like the bubbles in the foam. They last for a short while and then they die. Last for a short while and die. And according to science, every 7 years, all the cells in our body would have changed. So every 7 years we get a new body. We are like a bionic man. Because of this, there is no atta, no self. That's why it says, sabbe dhamma anattati. Nothing in the world has a self, has a core, has an essence. Sometimes people like to translate this atta as soul. It's not soul. It's not soul. Soul, in the Christian sense, there is no soul, like what the Christians say, because in the Christian sense, a soul is something that is permanent, is everlasting. But the Buddhist soul is different. The Buddhist soul is something that is impermanent, also a flux of energy. It's because the people who follow the Abhidhamma, they say that there is no soul, so they believe that when a being dies, nothing leaves his body. When the being dies here and takes rebirth in the womb, they say the consciousness in this human body stops. And then the consciousness starts in the womb. But that's not what the Buddha said. The Buddha says that there is a soul, that when we die, the soul comes out of the body and enters the womb. But it does not enter the womb immediately. It has to wait for conditions. What is the condition? Mother and father must come together. Secondly, mother must be in the right season, fertile. Then the egg is fertilized. Then this, in the suttas, is called a gandhabba. In later books, it's called an intermediate body. This gandhabba or intermediate body waits for the time to enter the womb. Then it physically enters the womb and then lodges itself there, and a new being is born, is created, a fetus. So that is what the sutta says, very different from what the Abhidhamma says. So we must always be very careful about later books. Later books, they mix some Dhamma with our Dhamma. So the only books that we can trust are the early discourses of the Buddha. I always reiterate, I always say that the Buddha already informed us that the true Dhamma will last 500 years. So for the 500 years after the Buddha passed away, we had the true Dhamma, the real Dhamma. And during this time when the people practiced the real Dhamma, there were no Buddha statues. Nobody prayed to Buddha statues. Only 500 years later, in Gandhara, in India, they started to make Buddha statues. So during this period of 500 years after the Buddha passed away, during Emperor Asoka's time, he made these stone pillars, and he got the workers to carve on these stone pillars the discourses of the Buddha. And now they dig up these stone pillars. We know that the original suttas during the Emperor Asoka's time consists of 5 Nikayas. No Abhidhamma, no commentaries, no Mahayana books. Only the 5 Nikayas, the 5 Pali Nikayas as we have them now. That is original Buddhism. So don't trust other books, only these 5 Nikayas. But even then, the Khuddaka Nikaya has a lot of additions, so you have to differentiate also. 200 and, okay, so now, just now, So when one understands that all volitions are impermanent, then we understand the world is impermanent, Dhammas are impermanent, and all volitions are suffering because the result of volitions is the world which is suffering. And all states, mentality and materiality, everything in the world has no core, no atta, no self. 280. The idler who does not exert himself when he should, who though young and strong is full of sloth or laziness, with a mind full of vain thoughts, such an indolent man does not find the path to wisdom. A lot of people, when we are young, we think we have a lot of time. We don't expect death to come. But for some people, death comes very fast. Just 2 days ago, somebody was telling me, somebody here was telling me that the colleague, 31 years old, just gave birth to a baby, suddenly found she has got cancer all over the body. Who would expect a young girl, 31 years old, and get cancer? So serious cancer. 281. Watchful of speech, well controlled in mind, one should not commit evil with the body. Let one purify these three causes of action and win the path made known by the great sage. So we should be controlled in body, speech and mind. And don't be lazy, as the previous verse says. Don't think that we have time because we have cancer, we don't know when we are going to die. 282. Wisdom springs from meditation. Without meditation, wisdom wanes. Having known these two paths of progress and decline, one should so conduct oneself that wisdom increases. So if we want to have a clear mind, we must meditate according to the Buddha's method. What is the Buddha's method of meditation? In the Majjhima Nikaya, Venerable Ananda was asked, what type of meditation is praised by the Buddha? And what did he say? He didn't say vipassana meditation. He said the first jhana, the second jhana, the third jhana, the fourth jhana. The four jhanas, only the four jhanas is the Buddha's meditation. If you practice any meditation and it does not lead to the four jhanas, that is not the Buddha's meditation. This is very clear from the Majjhima Nikaya. So why is it that meditation leads you to wisdom? Because the Buddha's meditation is the jhanas. And the jhanas means when you attain even the first jhana, the 5 hindrances are eliminated. And it's not eliminated only in the jhana. Even outside of the jhana is eliminated. We saw this from the Digha Nikaya. All the similes given when a person attains the abandonment of the hindrances. It was described like a person freed from the prison, like a man in debt, freed from his debt, and all that. So the abandonment of the defilements is permanent. But even though it's permanent, abandonment of the defilements, the 5 hindrances, not defilements, the 5 hindrances, it does not mean they are totally eliminated. That means not even a little bit of it. They are called hindrances when they are strong and obsess our mind. And they obsess our mind, sensual desire, ill will or anger, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry and doubt. These 5 things, when they are strong, they are called hindrances. When we attain the jhanas, they are reduced to a very low extent. When they are reduced to a low extent, they don't hinder us anymore, so they are not called hindrances. They are only totally eliminated by the Arahant, because the Arahant has pulled out the roots of the 5 hindrances, so they are totally eliminated. For other people, they are not totally eliminated. They are just cut down to such a low extent that they are no more called hindrances. That's why if you meditate the Buddha's way, the samatha meditation, and then your hindrances are reduced, then you can see and know things as they really are. Yatta Bhuta Jnana Dasana, the Buddha says, knowing and seeing things as they really are. There's only one condition, and that one condition is the samadhi, attainment of samadhi, where the 5 hindrances are eliminated. 283. Cut down the forest, but not the tree. From the forest springs fear. Having cut down the forest and the underbrush, be passionless, O monks. What do you mean by cut down the forest but not the trees? It's just like if a person is bitten by a snake, and you want to remove the poison, because the poison will kill that man if the poison is not removed. Even you have to cut off your arm, you cut off your arm to save the life, but you don't kill the man. As they say, don't throw away the bath water with the baby in it. So when we cut the forest of our defilements, we don't kill the self. There was one case. It might sound a bit coarse, but I'll quote to you from the Vinaya books. There was one monk. He was troubled very much by lust. So much trouble by lust that he couldn't stand it. What did he do? He cut off his sexual organ. So when the Buddha heard of it, the Buddha said, that foolish man, he cut off one thing when he should have cut off another thing. So here this is cut down the forest, but not the tree. 284. For so long as the underbrush of desire, even the most subtle of a man towards a woman, is not cut down, his mind is in bondage, like the suckling calf to its mother. This desire, this lust, is extremely hard to cut. So especially for the opposite sex. That's why samatha meditation is so important. When we practice samatha meditation, then we attain one-pointedness of mind, and then the sensual desire is no more a hindrance. It is cut down to such a low extent that you are not troubled by it. 285. Cut off your affection as one plucks with the hand an autumn lotus. Cultivate only the path to peace, to Nibbana, as made known by the Exalted One. This affection is a source of suffering, but to cut it off, it's difficult unless you understand the urgency. If you understand the urgency, that if you don't cut off your affection, your attachments, when death comes to you very soon, you will have a lot of suffering. All those things that you attach to turns the opposite, becomes your enemy, becomes your very obstacle to happiness. 286. Here shall I live during the rains, here in winter and summer. Thus thinks the fool. He does not realize the danger. Earlier we read one verse where the sleeping village is swept away by the flood. So in the same way, these most worldly people, they make plans, long-term plans. During the vasa, the rains, I'm going to stay here. During the winter, I'm going to go there. During the summer, I'm going to go for my here and there. So he does not realize that death is just very close by. Any time will touch him on the shoulder. 287. As a great flood carries away a sleeping village, just so death seizes and carries away a man with a grasping mind, doting on his children and cattle. 288. For one who is assailed by the destroyer, there is no protection by kinsmen. None there are to save him. No sons, nor father, nor relatives. 289. Realizing this fact, that the wise man, restrained by morality, hasten to clear the path leading to Nibbana. So here we see again the great flood carries away a sleeping village. So a person is attached to the children and the property, death will carry away. And 288, this destroyer is death. When death comes, nobody can save you. No relative can save you. So if you understand this, quickly practice the path of letting go. Okay, we shall end here for tonight. Anything to discuss? You can see from the verses how this Dhammapada is so popular. There's so many beautiful words of wisdom in it.
Okay, recently many people talking about heart and cushion. So can share the distinction between the two, and then about heart and cushion is one reference or could be instant recently happened.
This path and fruition, start with the first. To attain the first path is synonymous as attaining right view. The Buddha says in the suttas that all Aryans have right view, meaning Aryan right view, not worldly right view. Aryan right view means understanding the Dhamma, basically the Four Noble Truths. And as I mentioned before, to attain this right view, there are two conditions. One is the voice of another teaching you the Dhamma, and secondly, you pay proper attention. From this you can see right view can only be attained by listening to the Dhamma. It is not attained by meditation. Meditation cannot bring you to right view, which means meditation cannot bring you to the first path. And the sutta says in the Samyutta Nikaya, I think 25.1, the sutta says after you have attained the first path from understanding the Dhamma, then it takes some time for that wisdom to ripen, so to speak. It takes time for that wisdom to ripen. And then the latest, the wisdom will ripen at the moment of death. So between the time a person attains the first path and his death, maybe a few years later or many years later, during that period, you will ripen into fruit, sotapanna. And when it ripens into fruit, the three fetters fall away. What are these three fetters? One is identity view, Sakaya Ditti. That means when the identity view falls away, then he does not identify the self with the body and the mind, the five aggregates. An ordinary worldling, he always thinks that the body and the mind is I, is mine, is myself. But this person who has attained Sotapanna, the first fruition, he understands that this body and the mind is impermanent, so it cannot be self. Although he still has the self. Only the Arahant has no self. Then the second fetter that falls away is Sila Bhatta Paramasa, attachment to Sila or rules, and Vata. Vata means religious observance, religious practice, anything to do with religion. And then, so he is no more attached to it. That means even though he practices Sila, he is not too attached to Sila. He doesn't make a show of it. He understands the purpose of Sila. And the Vata. And then the third one is doubt. Doubt about the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. He has no more doubts. So when a person attains this Sotapanna, the fruition, these three factors fall away. So that is how to become a Sotapanna, basically by getting right view. And as I mentioned, that is only by listening to the Dhamma. Now to attain the second path, the difference between the first fruition, this Sotapanna, and the second fruition, the Sakadagamin, the difference is that both have eliminated the three factors, but the second fruition has decreased this greed, hatred and delusion, or lust, hatred and delusion has reduced. Now to reduce this lust, hatred and delusion, he needs some samadhi. And this samadhi is not perfect samadhi. Perfect samadhi in the Noble Eightfold Path means the 4 jhanas. So, since he needs some samadhi, that means he needs either the first jhana, or the second jhana, or the third jhana. So when a person attains one of these 3 jhanas, that's one-pointedness of mind reduces his hindrances. So much so that this greed, hatred and delusion are reduced. So that is the way to attain the second path and second fruition. So the second path, he also needs understanding of the Dhamma plus some samadhi, meditation, and basically samatha meditation. So in the same way, he attains the second path, and then it takes some time for the second path to turn into fruition. And when it turns into fruition, then the greed, hatred and delusion are reduced. So he needs either the first jhana or second jhana or the third jhana. That is for Sakadagamin. Now for the third fruition, Anagamin, a person who has attained Anagamin has eliminated 5 lower factors. That means the 3 earlier factors we mentioned, plus 2 more. And that is, what is the other 2? Sensual desire and ill will, I think. So he has eliminated sensual desire and ill will. And for a person to become an Anagamin, he needs the 4 jhanas, because the sutta says an Anagamin, a Sotapanna and a Sakadagamin, they have perfect sila but not perfect samadhi. Anagamin has perfect sila and perfect samadhi. That means Anagamin has the 4 jhanas. And the same way, the Anagamin, first he attains the third path, and later the path will turn into fruition. And then for the Arahant has perfect sila, samadhi and panya. So in addition to perfect sila and perfect samadhi, and Arahant has perfect panya, perfect wisdom. And that comes from destroying the asavas. This destroying of asavas and becoming liberated, a lot of people think is wisdom. This liberation or attainment of arahanthood is not defined as attainment of wisdom, but is defined as the destruction of the asavas. As I mentioned before, the asavas means the uncontrolled mental outflows. Basically, at the deepest level, is the flow of consciousness. Because when the consciousness flows, it creates the world. As I mentioned before, consciousness always comes with nama rupa, mentality and materiality, which means the world. When consciousness arises, the world arises. So when a person has destroyed the asavas, he has destroyed the tendency of the mind to flow. So when an arahant passes away, because he has destroyed the tendency of the mind to flow, the consciousness stops flowing. So that's why an arahant is not reborn. As I mentioned also in the suttas, the Buddha confirmed by saying that the consciousness of the arahant will never take rebirth again. So that is the arahant. Also in the same way, the arahant first must attain the path, and then it turns to fruition. So it takes time, not like the Abhidhamma says. The Abhidhamma says when you attain the path, immediately it turns to fruit. If a person attains the path and immediately the next conscious moment it turns to fruit, that means a lay person can never do dana to a path attainer. Yes or not? Cannot do dana to a path attainer. By the time you want to do dana to the path attainer, he's already become a fruit attainer. Yeah. But in the suttas, the Buddha says it is possible to do dana to a path attainer is possible, to do dana to a fruition attainer, both also possible. That's why this Abhidhamma teaching contradicts the suttas. Because a lot of people are not well versed, not knowledgeable about the suttas, that you don't see the contradictions in these later books. Okay? You can ask about any topic not related to this, what we are discussing tonight.
Since Dhamma is so important to the path of cultivation, and they share with us some information about Dhamma, first, second, third, and fourth.
This attainment of the jhanas, when we practice meditation, we are trying to discipline the mind, to control the mind, which is so hard to control. To understand the meaning of meditation and how to control the mind, the Buddha gave a simile. And this simile, the Buddha talked about a hunter who caught 6 animals. What are these 6 animals? A bird, for example, the eagle, and then a monkey, and a snake, and a crocodile, and a hyena, and a dog. So these 6 animals, the hunter tied a rope around the neck of each of these 6 animals. And these 6 ropes, he tied them together into a knot, and he let the animals loose. What happens? The eagle wants to fly up into the air. The monkey wants to climb up the tree. The snake wants to go into the hole to hide. The crocodile wants to go into the river. The hyena wants to go up the hill. And the dog wants to go into town to look for food. So these 6 animals are pulling in 6 different directions. And the Buddha says this is just like the everyday mind. Our everyday mind is being pulled by the 6 sense objects, namely sights. Sights or forms want us to see. Sounds want us to hear. Smells want us to smell. Taste want us to taste. Touch want us to notice. And thoughts also want us to think. So these 6 objects are pulling us. And at any time, whichever is the strongest will pull our attention. Just like these 6 animals, when you let them loose, the strongest one will pull the others. And when it's tired, another will pull and the others have to follow. And then when that one is tired, another will pull and they have to follow. So like now you're listening to the Dhamma talk. If suddenly outside there's a car horn suddenly, so loud, your attention is pulled there. Or if suddenly a mosquito bites you, and then you feel the itch or the pain, then your attention goes there. So our attention is always pulled from one object to another. And this is the everyday mind, and this you can also call momentary concentration. Momentary concentration, changing from one object to another, is what we practice every day, every moment. Even a mad person has momentary concentration because he keeps thinking of this and keep thinking of that. Even when you're sleeping, you have momentary concentration. When you're dreaming, you are mindful of your dream. All the time you're mindful of something, one object after another. That is ordinary mind, the momentary concentration. Now the Buddha says, for the hunter to discipline the 6 animals, what must he do? These 6 ropes he must not let loose. The 6 ropes he must tie around a stout post. And then when he ties the 6 ropes to the stout post, the animals, even if they want to fly up or to climb the tree, they can only go round and round the post, round and round until they are tired. And then they will sleep quietly beside the post. So in the same way, the Buddha says, if we want to discipline our mind, we must tie our attention to only one object. The mind is so used to going out through the 6 sense doors that it doesn't like to stay to one object. But that is the only way to discipline the mind. It's like a small boy. He wants to always go outdoor to play. Now you tell him, you've been naughty. Now you stay in the room. You cannot watch TV. You cannot play the computer. You cannot play with your friend. You just stay in your room. The boy won't be happy. So in the same way, when we try to discipline our mind, it's not happy. So when we try to meditate, to put our attention only on one object. And the Buddha says that his method of meditation, mentioned in the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha says, before enlightenment, the Tathagata practiced Anapanasati. And even after enlightenment, the Tathagata, the Buddha, practiced Anapanasati, which is mindfulness of the breath. So when we practice Anapanasati, we are mindful of the breath going in to our body, down to our abdomen, and coming up again. So we just pay attention. We pull our attention to the breath, the movement of the breath. And this paying attention to the breath is not like what the Visuddhimagga says, pay attention to the tip of your nose or the top of your lips. No, it's paying attention to the breath body. The Buddha says, the breath body. So we are paying attention to the breath itself. So if you want, you can follow the breath. When you pay attention to the breath, the mind will run off, maybe to your office. You're thinking of your office, or you're thinking of your family, or you're thinking, they close the window. So when it goes away, we have to pull it back to our breath. Every time it runs away, we pull it back to the breath. And that is called vitakka. Thought directed to your breath and only your breath. So if it goes, your straying mind tells you, wow, today very hot. That you don't bother, you just pull it back to your breath. Or you feel, my leg is giving me pain, also don't bother, pull it back to your breath. Unless the pain is so extreme that it is a nuisance, your attention is always pulled to your pain. In which case, you shift your leg. Otherwise, you just pay attention to your breath. So you keep paying attention to your breath. So every time it runs away, you pull it back to your breath. That is vitakka. And after you pull it back to your breath, you sustain it on your breath. That is called vichara. Vichara is translated as thought sustained on your breath. That is vichara. So you keep practicing, and it takes 1 or 2 years before you can have some skill to stay with the breath. That's why meditation is very difficult. For some people, even 1 or 2 years also cannot. So you keep practicing, always pulling back to your breath. Pulling back to your breath and staying with your breath. Pulling back with your breath and staying with your breath. So only use these two things, vitakka and vichara. So of course you must sit comfortably and not too hot a place. In a place where you're not disturbed by mosquitoes and insects and all that. So you are able to meditate properly. So if you are able to follow your breath and sustain it on your breath, and then slowly your attention, your mind becomes one-pointed. When it becomes one-pointed, piti and sukha will arise at the same time as ekagata. Ekagata is one-pointedness of mind. So when this delight arises, delight means you are delighted that your mind has calmed down and your mind is one-pointed. Sukha means the bliss. You feel the bliss that you have never experienced before. It's very blissful. So when this bliss arises, you are delighted, and your mind is one-pointed. So these 3 factors, when they arise together, these 5 factors, when they arise together, you attain the first jhana. Nowadays, some meditation teachers talk about the light and all that. If the light was important, the Buddha would have mentioned it as a factor, as a jhana factor. But the Buddha never mentioned light as a jhana factor. Only these 5 things are important. Light is not important. Light, whether light comes or light goes, we don't pay attention. When your mind is one pointed, it's natural that the light will come. But then it's not permanent. It will go away. Whether it comes or it goes away, you don't pay attention. If you pay attention to the light, you are missing your object. You are changing your object. You are not practicing anapanasati. Anapanasati means you are meditating on your breath and only your breath. Only one object. And you don't change that object. That one object represents the pose you tie your attention to. So there is a way you attain the first jhana. So after you attain the first jhana, because it's a difficult state to attain, you can lose it easily. You can lose it easily. Even if you attain it for a short while, and you lose it. Because you don't have the kung fu. So it takes time to develop the kung fu, where you can sustain your first jhana. So after you are able to sustain your first jhana, it becomes stronger and stronger. And all these 5 factors also become stronger. So when your piti and sukha are strong enough, then you change your attention from your breath, by which time the breath will become finer and finer and less noticeable. Then you change your attention to piti and sukha. You put all your attention on piti and sukha. When you change your attention to piti and sukha, then you have thrown away the vitaka and vichara. When vitaka and vichara goes away, then you enter the second jhana. So in the same way, you make your minds more and more still. You enter one jhana after another. Okay? Okay, shall we end here?